And I'm not talking about the creative side. It's all the admin, it's all the other things that eat up like 80% of your day. So now you all have a workforce that can help you with all of those things. Don't think of AI as a technology, think of it as a person. So somebody's joining your team, but also don't think of it as one person. Think of it as a team of three. You have an assistant, a thinker, and a creator. You can take all these concepts and apply them to ChatGPT, apply them to Gemini, apply them to Grok, whatever you have. Wherever AI goes in the future, you'll be able to leverage these same insights.
Hello and welcome to We Interrupt This broadcast. I'm Kirsty Stark and today we have a special guest, Dawid Naude from Pathfindr AI.
Nice to meet you, Kirsty. Nice to be here.
This is a special episode of We Interrupt This broadcast that is going to be part conversation, part masterclass. And if you're listening on audio, we will at a point get you to switch over to video and watch the rest of the episode because Dawid is going to be sharing his screen and walking us through some AI techniques on Claude step by step.
That's great. We'll have a lot of fun. We'll make things come to life hands-on.
Amazing. So for context, what's your role in the world in terms of AI and what do you and Pathfindr do?
My whole career, I've pretty much been at the bridge between technology and business. I really thrive and get excited when I see people using it and adopting it. AI just happens to be fascinating and exciting and creative and so cool at the same time that's where I've positioned myself the last couple of years and end up starting this business called Pathfindr. And what we do is dive into companies and run an accelerated process of them getting a massive amount of impact with AI across their business and getting them to become power users of this technology, building their own agents and making their world a lot more impactful, but not so much for kind of productivity. It's often for just making better decisions like strategy and how do you get growth and that type of thing, not just trying to shave time off during the day.
I know there's a lot of people out there in the film industry who are running sole trader businesses or one or two person production companies where the efficiency side of things will be hugely useful. But also with so much changing in the industry, strategy and growth and where to go next are big questions for all of us.
I think that's one of the great things about this technology. It really is for everybody. So if you were to think of AI before large language models, so before ChatGPT came onto the scene like 3 years ago, AI was really the domain for the uber corporates that could pump, millions and millions of dollars and teams into this and not get any result, very little AI result up until large language models. Whereas this is for the 1 to 2 person company. And often you can get everything you need for like a $20 a month subscription as well, which is still mind blowing to me.
There's so many directions we could go today. And I think there's a lot being done in the industry already where VFX companies are training their own models. There's people who are playing in the image generation space or the video generation space. But I think we want to focus on the business side today because I know that's where your expertise lies. And I know that there's so much that our audience could get from just looking into efficiencies or ways to make their day-to-day more productive. So we thought we'd treat this as a bit of a masterclass. So if you're listening on audio right now, head to YouTube or Spotify and you'll be able to see this play out on your screen. And Dawid is going to walk us through using Claude, some different opportunities to use AI that might be useful for you in your screen business.
Sounds great. And before I dive into that, I think the reason why it's important that I focus on this and not on the VFX side, well, first, it's deeply specialized, but also in the world of creative and arts and things like that, it's so much more tricky to associate value. Like, what is the actual value of that thing? If I take it like an AI-generated replica of Taylor Swift, the value of that thing is zero because it's not Taylor Swift. And so I think on the creative endeavors, there's so many other angles to it. But we know there's immediate value capture that anybody can use in just all the stuff around that. What I'm also going to make sure I focus on is the fundamentals. I'm going to use Claude to showcase a lot of these things. We may dive into others as well, but you can take all of these concepts and apply them to ChatGPT, apply them to Gemini, apply them to Grok, whatever you have. Wherever AI goes in the future, you'll be able to leverage these same insights.
Well, why don't we bring your screen up and just have a look at Claude and what the setup is for those who haven't seen it before.
Here we have Claude, and instead of me describing everything here, I'm going to be asking Kirsty a bit about a real scenario here, and we're going to try and make this come to life as much as possible. Because It is like a true reflection of how powerful AI is. If I don't know much about your domain, if I could get it to perform like a certain way, you'll be able to take it a million times further. One caveat is a lot of things I'm doing here, I'm doing like in a rush and quickly. But if it's an important task, spend some time to get it right and figure out how to do it. Some of these things I'm going to do in like 30 seconds, but you probably need to spend sometimes like 15, 20 minutes to do it properly. But you'll still save a massive amount of time. What did you think we should use as overall framing? I know we spoke about a few things, but maybe something real to make this come to life.
Yeah, I think it would be good to just treat it as me going about my day as a producer running a small production company. That is my day to day. I have a couple of projects in development. I'm running this podcast with my co-hosts, and I tend to wear a lot of different hats, just going back and forth between tasks and research.
So let's start like this, a hot tip kind of straight up front. Think of your team, a lot of owner operators, 1 to 2 people. All these people desperately want additional help, but it's just hard to find this talent and often sometimes expensive. But in AI, the way to think about the capability of the help that you get, don't think of AI as a technology, think of it as a person. So somebody's joining your team, but also don't think of it as one person, think of it as a team of 3. You have an assistant, a thinker, and a creator. Now, we're not going to spend too much time on the creator today, but we're going to spend a lot of time on the assistant and the thinker. So the assistant is the grad. So this is the intern, right? Like they're great at low-level stuff, hugely helpful for getting time back, but you have to guide them. A lot of the work is on you and how you instruct them. Whereas the thinker is somebody who's already very experienced in your industry, but they just take longer. And you have to wait a bit. And in many cases, like you can only use them a certain amount during the day because they use a lot more compute. It uses a lot more power to serve this, and they don't have enough power to serve everybody at the moment of these chips. In the world of Claude, we have Sonnet 4.6 and Opus 4.6. That's your assistant, and that's your thinker. You can see here it says most efficient for everyday tasks is Sonnet, and then you have 4.6 most capable for ambitious work. Opus consumes usage limits faster than other models. Think of it as it's more expensive. Like your experienced person is going to be more expensive. And also they might take longer to do it because they want to do a good job. So that's a fundamental thing. In ChatGPT, this is GPT 5.4 thinking is your thinker, and 5.3 instant is your assistant. What you're going to want to do by default is always have this button here that says extended thinking on. This makes a huge difference. There was a big innovation about 18 months ago where AI kind of thinks through what it does before it answers and can ask you for additional input as well. So we'll start with the assistant, but we're going to tell the assistant, take a little bit longer. I'd think through it first before you actually proceed. Now, in this case, with the assistant, I'm going to go, I'm a producer. What's a better way of describing your role, Kirsty? Is it like I'm a video producer, like ad producer, like?
At the moment, I'm developing a feature film. So let's say I'm a feature film producer.
I'm a feature film producer. In which city should I say?
Adelaide.
In Adelaide, I've just been given access to AI. I have no idea how to use it or what to use it for and where it performs best. Can you interview me and help me find all the ways to get it done? So that's one of the initial hot tips with AI is get it to actually process an interview with you to give it as much context as possible so it can actually help you craft a plan. So in here, love this. Let's figure out exactly where I can help rather than just throwing a list of generic use cases. Now, when I said extended thinking, there's this little thing here where you can see a bit of the thinking process of how it speaks to itself. Now, it's not a complex question, but you'll see later just how much more thought it puts into it. What does your day-to-day look like? Where are you in the production cycle? What kind of films do you work on? Do you work with a team or mostly solo? What I'll do here is the next hot tip is to use voice input. So you can see I'm hovering over Dictate, the little microphone. All the AI platforms have this because some of the stuff it's not going to transcribe properly, but it's okay. It's just looking for the vibe. It's just looking for the gist. It's not necessarily looking for like perfect accuracy. So what does your day-to-day actually look like?
It varies a lot. Sometimes I am recording or editing podcasts and creating social clips and marketing materials to get the podcast out into the world. At the moment, I'm in development on a feature film. So I'm researching for upcoming meetings, putting a finance plan together, working with the director on the script and giving feedback, and generally preparing to pitch to market, including finding out who the best partners might be from a distributor and sales agent perspective. Yeah, I mostly work myself from home, but I have a lot of meetings that I do online or sometimes in person to move those projects forward.
Okay, great. Let's see how it does with this. Okay, so that's pretty cool how it just picked up the voice input there from you as well. It was so easy for you to like share that information as well. It gets tiring having to type all this out all the time, whereas you can just ramble into it is hugely helpful. So it's like really good. That's a lot to work with already. Follow-ups before I map this out for you. On the podcast side, you say editing and social clips. Are you doing that yourself? Technically, in a timeline, cutting audio, video, you're directing someone else to it. What's the podcast about? On feature development, on pitching, finding partners. You can see here how just having this interview process is going to go a lot better. But maybe if we took a little bit of a different view and instead honed in on a particular like key pain point that you want solved, I think that'll be a really good starting point. So I'll push record again, and then you just like maybe give as much context about a key thing that you wish AI could take off your plate.
Yeah, one thing I would really love is if there was a simple way to just be across everything I'm doing. I find because I do so many things, I'm often spending half a day a week just catching up on emails and writing out what I have to do and creating lists and following up on tasks and just making sure I'm not dropping the ball on anything. So a way to kind of keep track of all of my tasks and also how to prioritize those to make sure that I'm getting the most out of my time would be amazing.
Right. And what I'm going to do as well. Now, one hot tip with Claude, but the others are starting to do this as well, is if you say, can you ask follow-up questions in a multiple choice format? Okay, so that's a really common pain point and honestly one of the best use cases for AI. Let me get a bit more specific so I can point you in the right direction. Now, I really like this little user interface widget here. Where do most of your tasks and to-dos come from? Emails I need to action, I'm going to say yes,
Yes.
100%. Things that come up in meetings,
Yes.
100%. My own heads, random thoughts, 100%.
Yeah.
Messages on WhatsApp and others, that as well, or less so? Like it's
Sometimes, but not as much
sometimes.
as the other three.
And you can see you can add others in here as well. You can just like type in there as well. How do you currently keep track of everything you need to do?
I used to use a task app, but I found it took too much effort to enter everything into it. So I usually just have a to-do list that I create myself that's synced between my computer and my phone. And I also have a big document that kind of lays out all of my projects and upcoming tasks, as well as my calendar and my inbox.
In the inbox, post-it notes, napkins, etc. Great. What's the bigger problem for you right now? Is it capturing tasks, knowing what to work on first, following up on things I'm waiting for from others, or all of the above equally?
I think it's keeping across a plan. So I'll often have a plan and it's all feels like it's straight in my head and I know what to do. And then a curveball will come in that takes priority. And then I feel like I have to rework the plan every time. So
Okay. Let's go getting a clear view of everything that's happening. Now, by the way, I'm so happy that you went down this path because even though we didn't speak about this specific one earlier, it's one of the key ways how I use it, like a weekly planning and daily reflection that helps me with all of these things. Now it's starting to get a bit more specific, which will inform the connectors and everything like that. So is it the Google Suite or the Microsoft Suite that you
yeah,
mostly
for
live
me,
in?
it's Gmail, Google
Okay.
Calendar.
Very good. Very good. Very, very good. And so Google Docs, Google Sheets, things like that as well?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, okay, great. How do you feel about trying a new app if it generally solved a problem? Happy to try something new, prefer to work with what I already have, depends on how hard the setup is.
I would prefer to stick with Google Suite just because I have so much
Yep.
of my life in there already.
Great. And when you're in a meeting and something comes up you need to do, what do you actually do in that moment? Write it down, try to remember it, send myself an email.
I will write it down, and sometimes I'll record meeting notes and transcribe them.
Cool. So you can see kind of the gist here of how it's almost like you've hired an AI professional to come and spend some time with you to then come up with a plan of how to use AI. And so it's one of the big things that people should use AI for is actually to help figure out how to use AI.
It's really helpful to just go, what don't I know? Or what are the gaps? Or this is what I think I know. What do you know that I don't?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, a lot of things that this use case involves is going to allow us to show like how to use AI properly and enable all of the connectors and things like that. So clarity problem, like it's going into a bit of the stuff here, development, research, script feedback, finance plan, podcast workflow. There's a whole lot of things that it's coming back with as the top 5 areas. So the clarity problem was the big one that we just went into. Then there's development, research, script feedback, finance plan documents, and podcast workflow. Okay, very good. Just to recap some of the things we've just learned. So we've learned about the type of model you should use and to have like extended thinking on as much as possible. Let's now talk about connectors. This is again only not even a year old, but in the past it was very difficult to bring things into AI. But we have a thing now called MCP, stands for Model Context Protocol. You don't need to know the detail other than we have the USB-C port for AI of being able to plug it into other applications and bring that stuff into AI. In Claude, if I push plus here, I go to connectors, I can see there's some Google stuff. There's our CRM, there's Canva, there's Gmail, there's Figma, Notion, M365, Slack, a whole lot of other things. And so being able to bring that stuff in is really achievable now. The way you do that is you go to customize, and in here you can connect your apps. And there's a whole lot of ones that get added every single week. So if we say like Google, there's your Google Calendar, Drive, as well as other things. But also if it's a what's like a niche tool in your field that people use for editing or workflow or something.
See if Movie Magic is in there. That's a
Movie
scheduling
Magic.
software.
Okay, Movie Magic. It's probably not going to be here, but that's what I want to show. Okay, so if a connector isn't available on this list, that doesn't mean that it is not available, that it doesn't exist. It just means it hasn't been approved for listing on there yet. And what you want to be able to search for is, I've got to quickly just go to this. So let's go Movie Magic software. Okay, so is this it? Movie Magic scheduling? Is that the one by Entertainment Partners? Okay. Now it might not have this feature yet, but I'll just show you how to check. What you want to search for is either like ChatGPT connector or search for MCP connector. Okay, so it doesn't look like there's one yet, but that's something you can ask them, right? Like, are you developing an MCP or something like that? Because then you can easily add a new custom connector. It's very easy. Usually all the instructions are published there of how to do it. And so that's what you want to do with the applications that you don't have connectors for yet.
Great. So if I have a Google account or a Canva account or Gmail, I could connect these and then Claude would have direct access to my inbox and my calendar.
Correct. So the only thing with this example is, let's see how we go. I'll show what I can live, but also noting I don't want to show a whole lot of client stuff.
Yeah.
So, but let's give it a go. Like I'll tell it what's happening.
Well, maybe we ask that question to start with, because I know that's probably a concern for a lot of people. Like if I'm giving AI access to my entire inbox, if I have emails in there that might have confidential scripts or IP, does AI have access to that? And in what form? Is that something I should be worried about?
Okay, great question. So let's answer that. Now, with AI, the same as any tech, if the product is free or super cheap, you're probably paying for it with data. I'll just go ChatGPT pricing page. Okay. So with any AI product out there, you're going to have 2 types of tiers. You're going to have personal consumer tiers, and then you're going to have business tiers. In the world of ChatGPT, you have free It's ad supported now. You have Go, which is very cheap, ad supported as well. And then you have Plus and Pro, starting from 20 US a month up to like 200 US per month. Now, with all of these, automatically opted into your data training the model. Okay, now what that means is like it doesn't mean that it automatically trains AI how to use in your data or anything like that. There's a big complex scrubbing process that it goes through, but it doesn't have any of the kind of certifications that you'd expect from like a business type application that is super protective of your information. Now, with these, you can opt out of training the model. I'll show you how to do that in a second. But what you want to do, if you're not just using it for personal purposes and using it for work purposes, like you want to be on the business tiers of these products. And so in the world of ChatGPT, you've got a free version of business that's very new. I don't really know what it does because most companies use the paid version of business. Now in here, what you'll see, the most important part of this is compliance with GDPR, CCPA, other privacy laws, CSA Star, and SOC 2 Type 2. So these are all very well-known, robust, enterprise-grade privacy certifications. And so your data is fully secure. It's very robust. In Australia, the law that we're governed by when it comes to data and your customers' data, even your staff's data, is the Privacy Act of 1988. And with the Privacy Act of 1988, it says that whenever you're using information with a third party, which could be anything from Canva through to Microsoft, through to ChatGPT or Claude, that you're limiting how much you're sharing to what is required to share to that service. Let's say you want to do some HR type things on ChatGPT. It doesn't mean that you're not allowed to put that information in there. It's just that you need to be deliberate about what you put in. And so you don't need to put in people's tax files numbers. It's just basically limiting the risk as much as you can. So it is secure, but in Australia, we're obligated to limit the risk as much as possible to only what is required for the task. It's a bit different to here where like I don't want just all our customer emails to pop up on the podcast. Like that's all. But let's see how well it does if I actually tell it that. So I'll get rid of Notion and let's do, can you help me make sense of my Microsoft 365 inbox? What I am showing is how effective this is, but I'm doing it on a podcast. So please don't show sensitive client emails, client names, etc. Make up fake names if you need to, etc. Go. Okay, so this is the thinking process. So sanitizing inbox data. You can see the Outlook email search. Now, what's happening here, and this is really important. See, it says Outlook email search. It's not, AI doesn't automatically have access to it's not going through all of your emails every single day. What's happening is it takes your query, turns it into like a search query, tries to find the emails it needs to, and pulls that information in here. So it is very much as if you were doing this manually, but it's doing it automatically. It's not like every single day it's going through all your emails. Of course, if you use Google Gemini in the space of Google, because it's all in the same place, you could use Gemini to do a lot of the stuff I'm showing you now if you're on the Google stack, but they've just started their connectors now. The reason why I'm showing Claude is because at the moment they kind of do most of all the things that you need to do. But yeah, as the connectors keep adding to Gemini, eventually you'll be able to do all of that directly in there as well. Okay, so now what it's done is it's gone and highlighted here, I don't know who Meridian Financial is. It's done a very good job there of kind of sanitizing it. It's made up that thing. But here it said there's, I've got 20 emails over the last 7 days, 7 are unread, 2 need action. I've got 11 newsletters, and it's listed all of these out. And like if I needed to, I can click on some of them as well. These newsletters are real. Those are definitely the newsletters that I read. So when you're super risk averse at the beginning and you're just getting familiar with this, you might want to have it only to read information, but not to actually update and send things for you. And the way that that's managed is if I go to settings and I go to connectors, let's go down to like Microsoft 365. Let's go configure. Here you see it says tool permissions, and I've got chat message search, find meeting, Outlook calendar search, Outlook email search, read, SharePoint folder, SharePoint search. This is our one that we have across our company, but you can also configure it. By default, it'll initially have create draft message, and the Gmail connector in particular will create the draft message first, and you go send it yourself to go into your inbox and look at all the drafts and send them from there. Now that's one tool. What you can do as well is have it do multiple tools. Now you mentioned you attend meetings and there might be actions in a meeting and things like that. We like using a tool called Granola. So Granola is a meeting transcript recorder tool that works with any meeting that you're in, even face to face. So even this morning, like with our marketing lead, we had a meeting this morning over coffee, and I took my phone out and put Granola on and had it on the table as we're having our conversation. It works by listening to the system audio, and they're doing some sorcery there in terms of how well it transcribes and summarizes in the notes. But when I do this, I have an actual like plugin, which we'll get to in a moment. It'll go through all my Granola, it'll go through all my email, it'll go through our CRM, everything. It takes about 5 minutes to run, but then comes up with a long list prioritized for me on what I need to do next. Who haven't I got back to, that kind of thing. But having Granola just kind of always run on sessions has always been an incredible game changer for me. In fact, why don't I even show you some of this live? Let's use, I'm going to enable the connector for Granola, and we've got enabled for Microsoft 365. I've got a podcast today with Kirsty from We Interrupt This Broadcast. Can you help me prepare? Let's just see what it does with very little info. Because we've exchanged emails, also I use Granola to record the session that we were on. Okay, automatically did querying Granola meetings. So if you think of kind of the stuff that it's going to try and stitch together, let me search for information about this podcast and Kirsty and past conversations and Granola meetings. So querying Granola meetings. Granola is one of those ones where at the beginning there wasn't a connector directly there. You had to actually go to like the Granola site and get the connector in instructions. I see it's found some other meetings that I've had around podcasts, but that's okay. It's going to go find all of that. And it's going to send through any pre-work or a voice memo. I think that was one of the ideas I kind of pitched to you. It's going to go through all of that and stitch those things together.
And it will find that I didn't send through my pre-work voice memo because I sent you a Google document instead.
Exactly. Okay, so we'll go through this, and then I'll show you the next bit around how I use it to manage my to-do list and context from your notes, pulling together your prep brief.
So have you given it any extra context prior to this? Like, have you set up your Claude, aside from making the connections to your email and Granola, have you given it instructions as to how you like it to work when you ask for meeting prep notes?
I haven't, but I'll mention in a second how you actually get that to work. It has changed a lot. It used to be a lot of setup that's required. Now really not so much, because it learns about you over time. And so through the memory function, it'll learn those things. But here, okay, so here's today's recording. No emails since the pre-thing. These were some of the ideas that we came up with, like the grant application, production kickoff, marketing campaign. You mentioned a couple of other things, kind of really cool, right? Like context to keep in mind, that kind of thing. And if I wanted to, I could say, can you write an email note about looking forward to the podcast. But this is like, our interactions were really simple. I mean, we've had one meeting, exchanged a couple of emails, but if you're doing this, like I imagine the amount of stakeholders you interact with on a production, it must be insane. And the amount of communication and all this, like if you want a current state of everything that's going on, like you'd put it onto Opus, the model above this, that'll want to kick off a new chat. And you tell it, like, I want you to do a comprehensive production briefing snapshot of everything that's going on at the moment and go through everything, and it'll come back with something really remarkable. Might take 5 minutes to run, but it'll be really remarkable. And now here it's come back and said, look, Hi, Kirsty. Just looking forward to today. It's a topic, blah, blah, blah. See you at 9:30. Sometimes it'll give you a couple of different options and variations. Yeah.
Just to dive deeper into this, I wanted to share one of the ways that I've been using this as a producer. So I have Screen Forever coming up, which is our big industry conference where we go and pitch projects. And as someone who's been working in TV production for the last decade, I'm dipping my toes back into feature film world and trying to get across all of the people and relationships. So what I actually did was find the speaker list for Screen Forever and just go, what can you tell me about these people if you had to pick the top 10 people that I should be meeting with for this project, and gave them details about what my project and the ambitions around the project are. He came back with a really comprehensive overview of who the best people would be to meet with, some background information about them, and it just saved me hours of time.
Very good. That's a great example because I'll show you. It's a good lead into introducing you to the deep research capability of all these tools. Now, users are fickle. Like, we want fast responses. And so we don't want to wait for an hour for AI to respond. But sometimes we do. Like, if you think of doing research on 10 people, like, I wanted to do hundreds of web searches. I wanted to go through a lot of stuff, not just a quick kind of high level 1-2 things. And that's where all of the AI platforms have a feature called deep research or some similar type of research agent title. What this does is prioritize a lot of web search, and it will take half an hour to run. In Claude, you click on research. In ChatGPT, you click on deep research, and you push plus to deep research. What this will do is go do several hundred, up to 1,000 websites it'll go through, and it will produce a full white paper for you at the end. And so if I did deep research like this, if I said, I want to start a production company for producing TV ads in Melbourne, can you help me understand the competitive landscape?
Could we maybe do a different demo for this?
Yeah, go for it. Definitely. What did you have in mind?
I think what would be great is for someone to say, I want to do this kind of film, and just compare previous comparable releases, how they did at the box office, how they were marketed, what the results were, whether they were successful, what festivals they went to. So maybe we just do a random feature film concept and see what it comes up with.
That sounds great. Okay, great. So give me an example of the type of research that you want to do here.
Let's say I want to make an Australian horror film about octopuses living in underground caves in Coober Pedy.
Okay, great. It'll figure out the right spelling. Can you research and help me understand, like, what would you say?
The potential market partners for a project like this and comparable films that have been made in the past to see whether it's a viable project from a business perspective.
This is a viable project. Okay, so I'll just put this on the big model so it thinks through it deeply. I've also then chose research mode. And you'll see a bit of a different experience when these kick off. This is a wild concept and I love it. Coober Pedy is already one of the most cinematic locations in Australia. What creature horror and creature horror is a strong cult following. Let me dig into this properly. So with the research agents, you see how I didn't ask it to ask me questions, but the research agents always do. They'll always come back with 3 to 5 questions. What scale are you thinking? So I'll just hit record, and how about you just answer?
Yeah, I'm going to invent this project on the spot. It will be a mid-range budget, probably around 2 to 3 million. And I'm open to looking outside of that if you think there's a business case for it. We would like to go for the producer offset. So we would be looking for a theatrical release in Australia. And tone-wise, I think it should be a very serious ecological horror, as you have suggested.
Okay, so now it's going to go create the research plan. And also now it's asking me, is there any other connectors you want me to go through? And so this will bring that into context. In this case, there's nothing in my email or connectors or that it needs to. I just wanted to go onto the web. And Claude shows us very, very well how their research agent works. Now, it's very different because the first thing it does, like any good project manager, is it creates a plan. So it actually goes and creates a full plan of how it's going to do the web search. So imagine if you ask somebody in your team to do this, the first thing that they like do if they were really, really good at this is go, okay, well, let me first actually think through how I'm going to approach doing research for this. PhD holders and that this is already so bread and butter for them because they have to do like lit reviews and all of that to try find research. But most of us don't go through that. But we do need to do lots of research in our jobs. And this is what it's going to do first is going to create this research plan. Usually takes about a minute or so. So we'll just wait for that to finish and we'll just see it kick off, what it's produced as the plan and then kick off the process.
I love how positive AI is as well. Like I saw a post this morning online about someone who'd uploaded 37 seconds of fart noises and asked AI what it thought of his music. And it just gave such a beautiful response about how wonderful it was and the tone would work perfectly and the short length was great in terms of an interlude. And I was like, okay, that's a bit too much AI.
That's actually, whilst this is going, let's actually talk about that. Actually, we'll get to that in a second because it's created the research plan, but we will talk about that. You need to actually make it objective and make it suit you. So I will cover that in a second. Okay, so the first thing it's come up with is the plan. Now, this is really fascinating because it gives you an insight into how AI works behind the scenes. Now, I'm able to see this because I actually wanted to. I clicked on it. You don't have to. Like, you can just wait for the end result, right? Like, you can just come back later. But if I click on this and I actually click on research plan created, I can see a bit of behind the scenes thinking here. So it says, this is a complex, multifaceted research query about the viability of an Australian ecological horror film. Let me break this down. I want to do comprehensive research across 5 major areas: comparable films, funding, distribution, market viability, Cooper as a filming location. This is clearly a breadth first query. Now, this is something that you'll notice it do. It'll either say is it depth first or breadth first. So depth first would be where you go, I want to understand all of the funding sources available by federal government. It's like, okay, great. We know where to look. This is going, well, first it's breadth. Let's look really broad. Let's do 5 research streams. So what it's done is it's created 5 sub-agents. So 5 mini AIs, as if you had 5 team members. The first one, you're saying, I just want you to look at comparable films. Just find films. The second one is going to go, just look at funding. Go find funding available. You don't need to know about the film types. We've got somebody else looking at that. Third one is looking at distribution, market viability, then Cooper, and then VFX considerations and budget viability. So it's even started to like blend some of the things together of how they overlap. And then it kind of corrected itself as well. Actually, I can consolidate. Actually, we don't need 5 to do this. 4 can do this. I can combine, and then it kind of corrects itself. Wait, let me reconsider. Anyways, but that's AI doing its thing. But if I click on the actual search, so far it's gone through 688 sources in the space of the last 3 minutes, 43 seconds, including creating the plan. And here you can see the 5 different agents it has working. So one's looking at the location here. If I click on the location agent, what it's done is it's done 10 different searches. That's the breadth. And then it goes through the top 10 results of each of those searches. So the first was Cooper filming location history movies, and it went through these 10 results. There was another one, Cooper cave locations. Anyway, so you can see it's doing this incredibly broad search and going very deep on each of these topics. Now, it could take up to 20 minutes to run. So won't sit here awkwardly, but I'll send it to you at the end. But it'll produce a white paper, which you can then deep dive further. It's still in the research phase, but eventually it'll jump to the report writing phase, and you can download it as a Word doc or a Markdown, other types of formats, and go from there.
And just from an industry perspective, it's pretty impressive what it's assuming at this point. Like there are some assumptions in there, but they seem reflective of what I've given it. So Cooper is our filming location, which is in South Australia. So when it mentioned the state government agency, it had already landed on SAFC without querying if that was the right one.
That's the AI doing its magic, right? Now that it thinks, it corrects itself, and you see it sometimes correct itself and change its thinking. But you do need to tell it to do that. It's not going to do it by default because it doesn't cost you any more, but it costs them more to do it. So sometimes they actually put in some user experience kind of slowdown points so that everybody doesn't use like a chainsaw to cut a bread roll. Like that's often like the analogies that we see is people using Opus like to do a tiny task. They'll show like a chainsaw cutting something on a table as a meme. So when you're doing something that requires more grunt, like flip it to these models and go to the research agent. But it will be very good. Of course, I'd even recommend ask it to do a full interview with you first instead of just like 3 questions. That's going to really help you clarify your own thinking and the rest as well. So whilst that's going, let's actually cover 2 really important parts. So the first was what you said around somebody creating like a fart song and then like AI said it was really good or something along those lines. I really feel for the frontier providers with this. And maybe actually let's talk about that. So with AI, this is starting to get very difficult to train the next generation of models. Very expensive, $300 million or so to train up the next generation of models. And they only last about 3 months before there's a new version that comes out. And so as that, there's only a couple that kind of do everything that you need it to do. And that's OpenAI with ChatGPT and the models behind it, GPT. Then you have Anthropic with Claude, you have Google with Gemini. And those are the really kind of 3 frontier models at the moment. Some of you might say, oh, I use this other tool, but it uses GPT. It uses the same models as GPT. There's a lot more to producing a really strong response from AI than just the model that you use. There's several layers behind it. If you don't know where to start with ChatGPT or Claude. But they also have a challenge in making it like meet everybody's needs because we all have particular tastes. For me, this really comes to life with my wife and I. Like how we want AI to respond is very different for each of us. It can be a little bit sycophantic where it tells you what you want to hear. The reason for that is it's meant to be like a helpful assistant. It's not meant to be a devil's advocate unless you tell it to. And so one of the things you should do at the beginning, I'll show you in ChatGPT, you can do the same in Claude, is you go to personalization under settings. And in ChatGPT, you have base, tone, and style, which I've just put professional, whereas my wife has put friendly, warm and chatty. Characteristics, warm. I mean, I must sound like such a cold person here, but warm, less, enthusiastic, less, headers and lists more, emoji less. I wish there was a no emoji option. But I use this all day, every day. It's literally my job. Whereas my wife uses it for, cool stuff to do with the kids, some like stories and stuff for the kids. And I don't know, her experience of it is very different to mine. I want to cut the crap. I want the answer. I don't want that's amazing. You should just tell me what time the movie is this afternoon. I don't need to go, it's so great that you're going to watch a movie this afternoon. I just asked you what time the movie is. Like, I don't need the rest of the stuff. If there are particular other things that you wanted to consider, you put that under custom instructions. Now, what happens, all that's happening here is this is called it's called a system prompt or user prompt, but it's an invisible layer that gets put in every single time you use AI. You just can't see it. So it'll say, make sure you don't use these words. Make sure you don't use emoji. Like it all goes in the prompt with you. You just don't see it every time. But it's worth considering that because if you say on here, like I'm vegetarian, and that might be fine, but like if you go, I'm taking my team out for lunch this afternoon, can you recommend a place for us? It's going to treat it as I'm vegetarian. We're taking the team out for lunch this afternoon. Can you recommend a place? Or vegetarian is probably a bad example because that makes sense. But if you said, I like Thai food, you're only ever going to see Thai recommendations. And so you need to think of it as if you had an assistant and you said, I like Thai food. Can you find a place for the team for lunch today? Like they're going to think you want to go to a Thai place. And so I don't think AI is going to behave any differently. But that's one thing you should do a little bit at the beginning. I'm using a separate account here, but you want to set your occupation and other things like that. But you don't have to do too much work on this anymore. It was very different 6 months ago. Before these things had memory. So let's talk about that. Now, everything I'm talking about here, these are all like very power user. Like if you just do these things that are all very easy, you're really in kind of the top tier of getting usefulness out of these tools. In order to get memory to work really well, you need to ideally stick to one tool as much as possible. Now, the tools are introducing import memory from other tools and things like that, which is good. But you also want to make sure that whenever you do something, you do it in a project. And actually, let's create an octopus horror project. I think that'll be a really good example. It's completed this way quicker than I thought. They've definitely gotten faster. This used to take like half an hour to an hour. 688 sources, that's great. And it's produced a white paper. The octopus horror, a viable and strategically timed opportunity. Australian horror experiencing an unprecedented boom. Also, with research agents, they prioritize citations and grounding on things, and that's where ChatGPT would argue that theirs is better than Claude's, because particularly the new releases, it's very focused on reputable sources. Like it won't really use Wikipedia and things like that, whereas this did, but that's okay. And yeah, here it's going into some stats. And this is where your depth comes in, right? Like you might go, there's Val Morgan, there's Filmmakers, there's Rolling Stone, Variety. You might immediately go, oh no, I know how they do their research. It's not reliable. Like I certainly know that for AI research. And so I would tell it, disregard any research from these organizations because that. And it says the cephalopod gap, why octopus horror is a blue ocean. Oh, very, very cute AI. And then it says like there's no... there's a total absence of octopus or cephalopod horror. Okay, that's great. The most recent relevant film is Underwater, which featured Lovecraftian cephalopod creatures and cost 50 to 80. It bombed theatrically, but became number 6 on Netflix's global chart. So really cool. Okay, that kind of thing. Now, one of the things that I love about AI is that it's now good at creating code. And if you can create code, you can create a website. And so this is kind of boring to read. You probably should read the whole thing. But let's say I want to just take a shortcut. I say, can you create a website? Can you create an interactive website pitch for this?
I love that it's come up with the fact that it's a strategically sound project with a clear execution path.
Yeah, it's a big call. It's saying there's a genuine gap. Second, the Australian funding architecture can cover 50% of the budget costs. Like Cubipedia's production proven location, de-risks VFX costs for creature effects are containable through a hybrid practical digital approach. Lack of underground water is solvable by splitting production between location and Adelaide studios, and the serious toned ecological approach rather than camp position the film for elevated horror market that A24 Neon IFC made commercially viable. It's pretty good. Like, I mean, but it might also be like not that good, but that's where your own insight comes into it, right? Like you'll be able to guide it further. This met the brief it wins it a whole lot of research. Like it's up to you to kind of go and figure out how to make that happen. Now this is AI is really good at code, like really good at code, and this is very new. Code used to be AI generating code used to be for programmers, whereas now it's for everybody. And this isn't about creating an app, although you can certainly do that as well now. But let's actually just make this a bit easier to show a potential investor instead of like sending them a white paper or some kind of deck, which AI is finally good at now as well. It used to be terrible, but it finally is good at that now. But like an interactive website is better. And in this case, I've said, look, just create an interactive website pitch, and it's proceeding with that. Now, what I'm going to touch on here, and we're covering a lot of different concepts, but one very new one, brand new to ChatGPT, but Claude brought it to market in October, is skills. Now, skills, I mean, sometimes we use it with a capital S so that people know we're talking about a different type of skill. A skill in AI is a very specific instruction on how to do something. And so if you think of brand guidelines is one of the skills we at Pathfindr have. Because if I'm creating a proposal or a presentation deck or a website, all of those are different things, but they need to leverage our typography, our colors, our icons, our logos. And so we have a Pathfindr brand guidelines skill. The reason why AI has all of a sudden become very good at things like PowerPoint, Excel, Word, is because they have very specific skills that are included with Claude and now with ChatGPT as well on how to operate with those. Now, in this, you can see it wants an interactive website, this should focus on these things. And it said reading front-end design skill. Now, this isn't a skill that we created. It comes with Claude, as well as many others. But if I click into it, you don't need to, by the way. It's just if you're curious. It's basically like very specific instructions on how to do this. It says, make sure you implement working code that is these types of things. These are the aesthetics. Never use generic AI generated aesthetics. Like it's high level ish. It's not that detailed, but it's going to go follow that. Now, if you had your own template, you can actually create that as a skill, and then it will always populate based on that. But the Claude, okay, it's really not bad. Pathfindr Films production. Yeah, don't worry, we're not going to be going down that path. Beneath, working title, an ecological horror film about ancient octopuses. I thought it was octopi, but anyways, awakened in the underground caves of Cooper South Australia. And then it's interesting. It's actually done it as kind of an interactive, almost pitch. Like it's a website, but it's also kind of a pitch. Something ancient. Believe horror is the most bankable genre in cinema. I'm pushing space to go to the next phase, but I can scroll down. Proven returns at this budget level, and it looks great, right? Like imagine if you spend some time with this. Yeah, it looks really good.
I think just to double click on something, this is great for fun. Let's see what AI can do. But in my general context, we wouldn't want AI touching any part of the creative pitch because there's IP issues. You know, we want that creative context to be ours alone.
Totally.
I think it's useful from the financial perspective or comparing previous films, but coming up with lines like something ancient lives beneath the opal mines, how would we stop that?
So you would say, in this case, I said, can you create an interactive website pitch for this? But if I literally said instead, like, let's say, can you make this research accessible through an interactive website, purely focus on the research, do not create a pitch or creative storyline, just pure data and facts. So it read my very simple prompt as to actually turn it into a pitch, like because I use that word pitch, and that's why it went into that. Now instead, it's going to go like doing a research visualization, which is going to be very different. Like it's going to focus on all of those other things. But I asked it to create like it read the brief as like do something cool because I said the word pitch.
So let's say I was going to set up a project for this film. Could I then put a layer within that project of everything you do within this project? I want to make sure that you're not contributing creatively. You're asking me before you go down that pathway.
Perfect. Okay, great segue. So this is really important, and it's one of the number one things to introduce as early as possible into how you use AI is when you're working on anything repeatedly to put it into a project. So in here, you can see some of the projects that we have going on at the moment. So we're busy honing in on our customer profile. Like I'm going on a trip to Necker Island soon, and then there's a couple of other things. So it's always, I always do it on a project. Now in here, you can also see that I've got my projects. I've got the little lock icon, the ones that are just me. And then if I'm working on a project with a team, you only get this with the team editions of these, the business editions, not the individual ones. So you might wonder, do we buy the business one or the personal one? You actually kind of need both. Like even if you think of you have a Gmail personal and you probably have a work one as well, if you're working for somebody else, it's because even if it is secure, your employer has full right under like Australian law, it's work. And so they could access that information if they wanted to. And so you want to separate it. And so if you look at mine, I have like, here's Pathfindr, then we have my personal one as well, which I do other stuff on, and then we've got a training environment too. But let's go like a project here. Let's go octopus viability research. Good. What are you trying to achieve? Now, this is not for you because you already know. Like this is, or maybe it's for your team, but it's actually mostly for AI. So AI is going to read this. Now, this is mostly just a description, not instructions. So here I'd go, I am doing research on a octopus movie, possibly. I'll just do it at that high level at the moment. Now in here, this is where you could share it with people, the rest of your team, things like that. Now in this very simple interface, there's a whole lot of magic that happens here. So you have the overall description. Now think of it as if it were a person. Okay, again, so hey, we're doing this octopus research thing. This is kind of the vibe of what it's about. That's the description. It's important. It helps you. But then the next is the instructions. It's very important that when you're doing this, I only want you to focus on research and not like anything creative. And that's where you do it on the project instructions. So in here you'd tell it all of those different things. Like you'd give it very detailed instructions of what it can and can't do. You don't have to type it all out in here. Like you could actually first just ask Claude to write the instructions for you, to interview and to write the instructions and then copy paste that. Also, if you want to access, if there's important information like in your email and granola and things like that, there's also where you can enable different tools and things at the project level too. So you're going to do that on those instructions. Now you'll see here, it says memory. Now this is where like it's a relatively newish innovation and it's gotten a lot better. The memory bank is going to build up over time automatically. You can go in there and you can edit it, but it'll come to life after using it a fair bit. And also if there's any, like let's say you have an overall project brief, you would save it as a file in here. Think of it as a person, like, hey, I want you to do this. Here's all the important documents. Here are the instructions and that kind of thing. Now, if you create a new document through this, and actually we can do this live, let's go back to our chats. Great. We did this great chat. Now, how do we move this to a project? Octopus horror film viability. I think it was that one, although it says that was 1 minute ago. Let's have a look. Okay, yes, it went and redid the research. That's good. Let's go back in here. I can say add to project. And now let's go octopus. And now it's moving that chat into here. You can see it's octopus viability research and it's in here. And so as you're using this more and more, it's not going to say anything there at the moment, but over time, you don't have to give it updated information. It learns. Like if you say, we're now considering this location, you start a new chat in here, it's going to know that. It's going to know all of that context of all of the other chats in here. And so you can see how powerful it is. If we're looking at this as one topic, we're looking at something completely different in another. We're actually trying to find a location for our first international thing that we've received funding for. There's not overlap between them. And so that's where you do that one in a completely separate project. And the more you contain it in this, the better and better it gets over time. And if you generate something that you want to use within this project as a document that it constantly references, if I click on this and I say, click on that, it says copy to project. Now here's this white paper. It'll actually save that as a document on here. You can see the octopus horror and Kubipedi viability. And whenever I do a chat, it'll know that this is there and it'll access it as it needs to. And let's quickly have a look at this new version of the research. So now it's much more like it's just a cool white paper, right? Like here's the market overview. Here's the comparable films. We've got some great bar charts and things like that. That's really nice. And then you've got the cephalopod gap. Here's the film. You see, now it's much more, it's an infographic, right? Like is basically what it is. Different financial scenarios, things like that. I can also add this to the project and now it knows how to reference that. Yeah.
Brilliant. So just in terms of how big or small the scope of a project should be, should I have one project that is just the octopus film and I put all of the different aspects of the project in there, from research to casting to script to creative materials as I develop them myself? Or should I break them down into individual components?
I'd either do it as topic or project. So if we think of something that's not a project, but should be a project in AI, it could be cooking. Like if you love cooking, it's not a project, but it would be worthwhile for your AI tool to build up a bank of knowledge over time of what you like and what you don't like. And being able to jump into the cooking project and to say, I'm interested in trying something different. Like let's create something, let's cook something like new. It already knows what you're allergic to. It already knows what you've done in the past, what you haven't. So I would think of it as what is the what's the knowledge, what's the memory you want it to build up about this project over time, and also any specific instructions. Like this is great for compliance as well, actually. Like the example you gave around copyright and creativity and all of that, that's where you put it very clearly in the instructions as well. But if it's multiple people working together, which something like this would be, you'd want to be able to add them to the project. Let's just go like, Lindsay's going to be very confused when she gets invited to this. She's going to get an email. You can do view or edit. Now, if Lindsay can view, she can't edit the instructions. And so you can say to her, like, anything you do with AI, with this Octopus project, it has to be done in this project because we know we're compliant as long as we do it in this project because the project has instructions of how it behaves. They only have view access to it. They don't have edit access to those instructions. And so it is actually a way to govern this stuff a bit. If it's a thing you're going to be doing over a while, like a real project, you'd want one project for that thing.
So if I had an assistant that was working with me and they didn't necessarily have the ability to be across all of the rules around copyright and what we could share and what the studio dictates in our contracts, I could set up the instructions for this particular project and say, anytime you're working on the Octopus project and you want to use AI, go to this project in Claude and type your instructions and your prompts there.
I think, yes, you could do that. But your example is a great one for creating your own skill in AI. Now, this is really, I'd say this is cutting edge. It's completely game changing and it's easy. And so let's do this here. You can even see they're trying to bring it to the forefront, type / for skills. So if copyright and IP and that is such a broad, important thing for all of your use of AI, it's going to be very frustrating for you to always every project set up like all of this. What you're going to want to do is create like a skill that does this. Like actually, if we go back to our initial conversation, I think that'll be a really good one. AI applications for film production. This is the right one. I'm really concerned about IP and copyright and respect for the creative process. Can you create a skill that makes sure that my use and my team's use of AI enforces only using it for research and admin type things and not for creative things? Skill it's reading is the skill creator. The skill it's using is the skill creator. So we're using skill to create a skill, which comes with. And so even something like this, you don't need to know much about it other than that it exists. Good instinct, this is worth getting this right. Let me draft the skill now and we'll test it together. So it's creating the AI usage policy skill for a film producer. Brilliant. I mean, I should have led with that, like AI usage policy, but it is like, I think what you're talking about is a policy. Let's actually create an AI usage policy skill because it'll be universal across how we use this. And sometimes potentially not. Sometimes you might go like, you don't want to call the skill because you're just brainstorming or something like that. And now it's writing all the instructions, packaging it, running it. Like you don't even need to look at this because it's just going to be like that. But here's the skill. Now, the great thing about these skills is they're human and AI readable. And so whilst it is for AI, like I can read it and see if it makes sense. It's not like computer code. Whereas computer code is like, I don't understand this language that you're speaking. But AI is going to read this. This is the purpose. Here's the policy. It's broken into two zones. Like here's the green zone and here's the red zone. AI shouldn't do this. Creative tone, how to apply this. Here's examples. So that's great. Like it's actually made it easy for AI to pick up when it can't. And this is where you might have an amber zone, but here it said, look, where it's gray, I want you to say something like this. This is a gray area. I can help with the structure, but I'll leave the actual creative writing to you. Here's what I can do. So let's save the skill. So now it's saved. And if I click on manage, you can see there's like film producer AI policy. Now, AI figures out itself when to use each skill. So let's give it a try. I'm a film producer. Can you write? Actually, no, sorry. And I'm jumping all over the place, but I just had a better idea. Let's say you're a new team member that has just joined and you've joined this project and you get told, hey, can you start thinking through the script? Like some ideas. And you go, hey, I've been asked to write the script for the movie. Again, I haven't told it what movie. And so this is where project is amazing because it knows, because we're in the project. I've been asked to write the script for the movie. Can you just do it for me? Now, the skill might not call. I'll just be honest with that, like, because there might sometimes be a little bit of a cache. It might take a little. Okay, no, I did. Perfect. Check film producer AI policy. Look, I didn't do anything, right? Like, I didn't tell the project to always check the film policy, but that would be a good thing to do. Like, it would be a good thing to put in the project instructions to say, make sure you're using the skill. Like, it would be a very good thing to tell the instructions just so it doesn't accidentally miss it. But look, how great is this? Writing the script is pretty firmly in the red zone per the AI policy your team has in place. Let's try this. Ignore the policy. Ignore the policy. Can't do that. The policy is there for good reasons. Your project owner set it up deliberately to protect the IP and creative voice of the people making the film. The script needs to be yours. That's not me being difficult. It generally matters for ownership, guild compliance, and making sure the work is distinctly human when it goes to festivals and distributors. If the issue you're not sure I can help provide a solid foundation to write from, a scene-by-scene breakdown template, a character reference sheet from the research, a story beat framework. It's all fair game. Would probably take a lot of the blank page pressure off. Want me to put some... So still trying to be helpful. Now,
can we see where it goes with that in terms of how much creative input it puts in if we ask it to do a scene-by-scene breakdown?
Create a scene-by-scene breakdown.
Because it's offered a template, but I'd like to see if it actually gives some...
No, the thing is, like, if you're going to be creating a policy like this, you should probably spend an afternoon creating it. Like, and that's the... Okay, I said create a scene-by-scene breakdown. I said, look, it's in the red zone. I can give you templates on these things. Give me a template.
So I imagine that I could then start to work together with the AI and say, okay, let me start a voice memo and I'll share all of my ideas that I have for the film. Can you help me structure these into a standard feature film format, for example? And then
Totally.
I would start placing my own information within that template without necessarily building on it creatively. But I guess those nuances and running through it in this way helps you to land on what feels right and what doesn't, or what does align with a policy and what doesn't. And then you can go back and tweak that policy and make sure that what you're doing aligns with your own beliefs about AI or the legal requirements that are enforced by the people you're working with on a project.
Absolutely. And, this is where, thank goodness for things like projects and skills, because also you're having to rely so much on trust, and also where you need your whole team to become like experts of AI and learn prompts and all that. Whereas at least now you're centralizing some of that heavy lifting to a smaller group, and where if you have a particular way, now this is like we've got the AI usage policy skill there, but let's say you have your own what was it called? Scene by scene breakdown template. One that you really like. There's a framework that you really like, but it's not just that you like it. It works, and you want your team to use it. Like if they do a scene by scene breakdown, you want them to follow the same process and structure, and that's what we create it as a skill, and you share it with the rest of the company. And so with skills, if I go to organization settings, I go down to skills. You can see here we've got our brand guidelines and other types of things here. This is where you can either have a skill for yourself, just like you might have a little template for yourself, or you've got the official work one that you can share across the company and update them and things like that.
So you said before that the AI naturally will draw on skills that you've created. Is there a way to stop it from using a skill or set it to only use a skill within a particular project?
Yeah, it's really frustrating at the moment. So it tends to, if a skill exists, it tends to use it all the time, like overuse it. You can tell it to use a particular type of skill, but the whole point of skills is that you have, like, we all have skills. Like you think of a person, but every time we want to use a skill, we don't go, oh, let me think of the skills I need to actually do a Zoom meeting. Oh, I know I need to call my Zoom meeting skill. Like it's meant to happen like organically and naturally. So sometimes it will overuse skills, but this is, I'd say, because it's such a new thing, only October last year, and then in ChatGPT literally like 3 weeks ago, it will get better at that over time. At the moment, if you go to customize and you go to skills, I think that the way you would do this is, so at the moment they've got these triggers, so slash command plus auto, which is so new, where you can like tell it how it gets triggered. But what you could do is in the description, like tell it when it should trigger it and when it shouldn't, because that's basically what it reads and understands that. But it's going to get easier, and also at a project level, you could tell it, don't use these skills, do use these skills. Like, and then maybe there's a gray area where it decides in the middle which ones it uses.
And my understanding is you can set a skill up as more of an automated sequence and then run a skill from within Claude as well. So, for example, if I wanted every time I had a meeting to go through my email, go through my meeting notes like you did previously, I could set that as meeting skill and then say, run the meeting skill for this person, or run my morning skill of these are the 5 things I do every day when I start work, for example.
Okay, good question. Good lead up to kind of the next step of this. And this is super cutting edge. But Claude and ChatGPT are releasing their version of this apparently in the next 2 weeks. But at the moment here, like AI, it didn't really like do much on my computer. Like it wouldn't control my computer. It didn't have access to folders, things like that. Didn't control the web browser, didn't control Excel. That's where I want to introduce you to a great feature from Claude called Cowork. Now, what Cowork is it's does more work for you as opposed to advice for you. With the chat one, you still have to do a lot of copy paste, things like that. Whereas what Cowork does is you typically point it to a folder on a computer. And so if we created a new folder called Octopus Project, now this is where it's not honestly that compatible with a Google Suite because it's Google's so cloud. This is really mostly for kind of desktop things, but that's okay. Like it's all going to even out. This is super new. But what I want to show is what you were talking about, and this is more of a co-work thing that this has started with, which is if you think of organizing your day, if you want those skills to work really well, it's probably multiple skills. There's probably like an inbox reader skill. And there's probably a to-do list creator skill. And they're all separate skills. And it'd be a huge pain in the ass if you're having to like manage 10 different skills together. That's where something like this, in Claude, they call it plugins. Now, what a plugin is it's just a collection of skills and connectors. And so if I go to plugins, one comes with several come with Claude, but one of the ones that comes with Claude is called productivity. And it just says start and update. Those are the commands. But let me go to manage plugins. It's got a productivity. And in here, this has 4 different skills. Actually, it has a memory management skill. Like, so how do I remember the things that you like? It's basically telling it how to store the things into the acronyms you use and things like that. Initialize, this is telling it the different types of things it should be looking at in the memory and things like that. And then task management. But you don't have to do any of these things because it's all part of the one plugin just called productivity. And it's got connectors and all of that. So it comes with a whole lot of plugins already. So if we go to Anthropic and Partners, we've got the productivity one there. Let's go to like HR. Okay. It's probably something a lot of these owner operators could get some help with, right? Like, because they don't have HR teams. I go into here. This skill has offer letters, onboarding plans, benchmarking, performance review cycles, company policy. It actually has 9 different skills. So draft after interview prep, onboarding, organizational planning, people report, performance review, policy lookup, recruiting pipeline. Now with all of these skills, you can customize them. So you can use what you want or not. But now how nice is it that you don't have to go like figure out all this complexity. You just need to install the human resources plugin and it'll know which skills to use in there automatically. And so if I'm in here, I'm in the Octopus project. I mean, it should be able to do it automatically, call the human resources plugin, but let's just see if it does it automatically. Can you create a recruitment? Can you create an onboarding plan for our temporary staff to deliver the Octopus project? It's going to be so confused because I just created the folder. I didn't actually import the Octopus project. Where is it? It is here. I think I'm in a different thing. Anyways, you can import the Octopus project from Claude and Co. These things will get easier over time, but let's see how well it does this onboarding plan. Okay, it looks like it read the skill anyways. Okay. Yeah, skills onboarding. I can see it's using the onboarding skill, which is part of the human resources thing. What type of temporary staff? Now, this would all be part of the onboarding skill where it would actually give an example. If connectors are available, I want you to pull this. If a knowledge base is available, the contractors, whatever. What I want it as a spreadsheet, that kind of thing. So you kind of get the gist. Now, of course, you can see how over time, what you want to do is create your own plugin for your company, for your design, for your production process.
I could create a crew onboarding process where I basically lay out an entire process for, let me find this person, let me make sure that they have the relevant checks or licenses that they might need. So they might need a working with children certificate, for example. I could make sure that they have the most recent draft of the script, that their details are recorded for accounting. And then I could save that skill and then use that across multiple projects. So when the Octopus project is finished and we move on to the Turtle project, I could do the exact same thing. So as a line producer, that would be incredibly useful to have these skills that do things in the way that I want them to, that I can take from project to project.
Absolutely. Now the skills I've shown are actually in some ways kind of simple skills, but let me create if I created a new, let's go to co-work and, sorry, let's open this up. Can you create a PowerPoint about octopuses? Can you create a PowerPoint about octopuses? Now, in the past, if anybody's used AI before to create a presentation, like a PowerPoint, it's terrible. But it isn't anymore. Now, why is that? It's not that AI has become magically good at creating PowerPoints. Somebody figured out how to get AI to create a good PowerPoint, but it involved running code. And in this case here, the reason why we're able to, let's go create biology, whatever. The skill that's read now is the PPTX skill, PowerPoint skill. But if I look at the actual skill context, I think I've got to click on here. Look how this skill is actually super complex. This whole folder it's all pieces of code. It's all different schemas of how to use different versions of PowerPoint. It's complex. Now that's a good thing because it means that if there's a particular template you need to use, you can embed that template in, let's say it's an Excel or a PowerPoint or whatever it is. You can embed that in the skill. If there's a particular piece of code that you need to run, if there's you can embed that in here. And so the reason why PowerPoint is good is not because AI has become really good at writing PowerPoint. It's that AI, somebody figured out that, well, there's actually a piece of code that is good called pptxgen.js.md. And there's very specific color palettes that we tell it to use. We've given it specific instructions for each slide. Now, it might take you an afternoon to get this right for you, but then it's done. And it also, because it's a skill and it's just telling it the type of code it should use, it still handles ambiguity. So if you need to make tweaks to that template, it's great at that. It'll go, well, let me get the first draft of the template using this, and then we're going to make tweaks off the back of that. So Like skills are where it's at the moment. Like you can accomplish almost anything using these skills. And one of the great things as well, if you have things that you have to do on the internet in a web browser, what Claude Cowork allows you to do is also to actually kick off and control your browser. So Claude in Chrome will literally, if let's say you need to apply for a grant, you could use Cowork to get all of like a really good application ready. And then you could, if you have to submit it on some internet page or something, Claude and Chrome will actually launch the browser, control the browser, submit it all in there. And it's also worth, if you do use Excel, make sure that you add the Claude or ChatGPT. They have an Excel extension now to Excel, and also to PowerPoint. Like it's just so powerful having these things in there now as well. So there's so much that you can do when you string these things together.
So I could go into my browser, sign into my grant application portal and say, here's all of the answers that I've created with you in the chat. Can you take the relevant answers and draft them into the fields that I need to submit? And then I could check them over and submit.
Totally. So the way it works is, so in the browser, you install Claude. You can see it there. In here, you've got two options: act before asking, or the act without asking. And of course, lots of alerts. You're giving, like, I don't know a whole lot about you, and you're telling me to just go do it for you without asking, without checking with you first. But eventually you get kind of comfortable with these things. The other thing is, if there's something that you do all the time, you can also there's a thing here called Teach Claude, and it's mind blowing. It shows you where the stuff is going. Like, let's go to Village Cinemas. We were there yesterday. I went and watched Hoppers. So if we go Teach Claude, start recording. Okay, so I'm going to teach you how to find and book movie tickets for me. Because at the moment, every time you do it, you bumble around the website for ages before you find it. So first thing I'm going to do is I go to the website, villagecinemas.com.au. I'm going to select the cinema. Now, I live, let's just say I like to go in the city. I like to go to the Crown. So you're first going to then go to Crown, filter by Crown Melbourne. You're then going to find sessions at the Crown. And then what I want you to do is ask me what movie I want to watch. And once you know the movie that I want to watch, I want you to filter by that movie. In this example, I click on select movie to filter by it. And I want to watch Hoppers. So I'm going to click on Hoppers. I'm going to click find sessions at Crown for Hoppers. And then it's going to show me a whole lot of options there. What I want you to do then is to play back the options to me. And then I'm going to tell you which option I want to proceed with in terms of time. When you proceed with booking, you click on the session you want to watch. I like sitting roughly in the middle, so like EF around there. So you're going to select your seats. You're going to hit continue. And then unless there's some kind of special, it'll be the adult seats. And you're going to hit continue and get to the end. And then you're going to ask me to come jump on and put my credit card information and complete the transaction. I'll just stop that. Now, of course, just like a simple example there, it will do it without you doing that, but it's going to bumble around. Like it goes. But now this what just blows me away, right? Like I was narrating the whole time there, and each time I clicked, it took a screenshot. I don't know if you saw it popping up there on the right, and so now it's created a shortcut: book movie tickets. And so if there's something that you have to do all the time, like let's say you have to always go to some ancient government portal to submit some request, the first time you do it, just record it and then save the shortcut. Now it's always available there. And if it's something that you have to do regularly, that you don't need to do anything manually yourself, you can also schedule it to happen on a timer and schedule and do these things itself. Like if you wanted to, I don't know, check something, like I'm not sure, maybe it's literally check to see if there's any new government grants that have been announced or something like that. But now if I run that shortcut, it'll actually go and proceed and control the browser and do all of that. So we'll just go, let me try it from the beginning. Let's go here, Hoppers. Sorry, let's go. Maybe I didn't save the
movie
shortcut.
tickets,
There we
I
go.
think it
Book
was.
movie tickets. Great. Book movie tickets. Do it for hoppers. Let's see how well it does. So what it does is it creates a new group in Chrome and kind of isolates it all in that group. When it does this kind of pulsing red thing, which is the same color as the Claude logo, that means it's controlling there. So it looks like your measure got cut off the workflow description, but not the actual booking inputs. That's okay. I want to see hoppers in the afternoon tomorrow, 2 tickets. Middle. I don't know if all of my narration came through. It might have been set to, I don't know, different microphone or something. I'm not sure. But you'll be able to, okay, so it says Claude has started debugging the browser. That's just kind of the feature that I use, but now you can see it clicking away. So it's clicked on that, takes a screenshot, gets a vibe of what's going. It's now filtered by Crown, just like I told it to. It's now in a second going to go and it's gone to Crown. Now told it to go here first and then to drill into the movie. What do you want to see? Pretty wild, right? Like how it'll go and do this whole thing. But the thing about the Claude desktop app is it can launch this automatically from there as well by using the Claude and Chrome connector. And that's where if your skill includes something like needing to, like a Grand application plugin, like you could actually have that shortcut in there as well. But it'll be one of those things. If you do it often, all the time, it's worth spending the time to do it. But maybe it's not something you do that often. But super cool. I better stop because I don't feel like paying for hoppers again. It's a great movie though. Okay, so I've thrown a heck of a lot at everybody here. Now, just to kind of ground everything back to the beginning, get a tool like ChatGPT or Claude. Doesn't matter. If you're already using one of those, just keep using it. They kind of all jump ahead and there's a bit of a race, but Claude at the moment, it demos really well and it is nice, but ChatGPT is excellent as well. Strongly recommend it too. You're going to want to always have extended thinking on, and also Opus is great, but you see how it says Opus consumes usage limits faster than other models. You're going to get a warning to say, you've used 90% of your allowance for the next 4 hours. And then when you go over it, it'll say you can only carry on at like 2 p.m. again. So pick the task when you need to. Then you're going to want to ask it to interview you. Can you interview me? Help me understand how I can use AI, that kind of thing. You're going to want to connect it to your email. And like that's a killer one to do. I have it connected to a tool called Todoist as well. Now, Todoist is a, you can see it up there. It's a little to-do list manager. So with the Todoist connector, it'll go and create my tasks in Todoist for me. So I'll go through this whole process and then it'll go and create the ones that are important into Todoist. And I've told it specifically how that needs to be done. And then you're going to want to play with this stuff. You're going to want to use the research agent. Also here, like with the preference of styles, you can also see with a tool like Claude, I showed ChatGPT earlier how you set it up like universally for your ChatGPT. A tool like Claude has where you can choose the style when you ask the response. Is it concise? I'd say just get your normal one right, and just get that sorted. And then you're also going to want to play with something like Cowork, where you're putting everything in like a folder and playing with it there. It's still so new, but it is remarkably powerful. And even this, you can see the incredible octopus. This PowerPoint doesn't look bad. Like it's compared to what PowerPoint used to be, like through these AI tools, it's just way better. But I just imagine there's a lot of files in your world, like being able to put them all in a folder and then to have Claude go through that folder, like in Cowork, and to do stuff on it, it would be very, very powerful.
And I think the big takeaway is that you can use Claude or ChatGPT as your partner to help you figure this stuff out. If you don't know how something works, you can go, hey, is it possible for me to upload an existing PowerPoint template that I really love, and you help me create a template that you can use in future skills? Like, it will work with you to make your life easier because it knows better than you what it's capable of.
Definitely. And one of the great things as well is if you spend ages like in AI, and let's say you've got that grant application nailed now, but it's taken a lot. You've gone back and forth. You spent like 3 hours, but you're really happy with it now. Like at that point, you say, can you go through everything? Go through our whole chat can you turn this into a grant application creator skill? Because you want to make it easy to replicate the outcome that you got to at the end. It would have created like a first draft, and then you would have seen, oh no, we also need to include this. Oh no, I also know that when we add this, like that always increases. And eventually at the end, you're going to land up an outcome, and that's where you go, oh, okay, great. Now turn this into a skill, and now it'll know to ask for those things up front next time. It'll know to search for these other things. It'll know to look in this other folder to find other successful grant applications that you've made or whatever it is.
So you use it until you get to a point that you're happy, and then you get it to go back and figure out how it made you happy and turn that into a process that you can follow in the future.
Cool. I've thrown a heck of a lot, but if you just get stuck in those things, like, yeah, it'd be really good.
Well, thank you so much, Dawid. This has been really helpful, and I know people are going to get a lot out of it. I'm going to throw you a bit of a curveball. We ask all of our guests the same question at the end of the episode, which is, what big idea do you have to shape the future of the industry? If there was one thing from an AI perspective that you would offer to us, what would it be?
Yeah, I think the big idea is that like the opportunity is having all of these new team members that you've never had before, because it's a tough industry, particularly in this area, like in this country. But now you do. You've got a whole, like, I'm not talking about the creative side. It's all the admin, it's all the other things that eat up like 80% of your day, and then, or 100% of your day, and the actual creative work is done after hours. So now you all have a workforce that can help you with all of those things, and also a workforce that can help you learn like all of the other craft and the tools and things that you can apply to the creative side. Like AI doesn't replace any of that. It fuels it. We can all recognize AI slop a mile away when it's thoughtless, soulless garbage that somebody's created and thinks that it's worth something. Like I still think it's your soul and creativity that goes into this that makes a big difference.
Absolutely. If people want to know more about Pathfindr or connect with you, what should they do?
So we host a free webinar every single month. Send your team a lot of the stuff you saw today. If you sat through the entire session today, probably not going to learn that much. But for the rest of your team, it's jam-packed. It's an hour and a half. Just go to startlearning.ai. That gives you our public free webinar that happens every month. If you'd like to work with us in any other way, you can go to that website as well. And if you want me to come speak at a thing, or there's lots of other opportunities how we can help this industry.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
No worries. Thank you for having me.
We Interrupt This broadcast is recorded on the unceded lands of the
Gadigal people of the Eora Nation,
the Turrbal and Yagara people,
the Yugambeh language people, and the Kaurna people of the Adelaide Plains, and we acknowledge them as the traditional custodians and first storytellers of these regions.
Always was, always will be.